Part 1. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you I had a good life. Maybe not a happily ever after fairy tale, but a solid, dependable marriage. The kind of life that doesn't make headlines, but quietly builds something worth protecting. My name's Michael. I'm 37, married to Jessica for 9 years, father to a bright-eyed, dinosaur-obsessed 6-year-old named Eli. I run my own HVAC company. Not glamorous, but it puts food on the table and keeps roofs over heads, ours and a few of my employees. Jessica worked in marketing. She had that charm that made people say yes without realizing they were agreeing to anything. Beautiful, social, always on the move. I used to joke that she could talk a rock into dancing. I loved that about her. I thought she loved that I was the opposite, quiet, consistent, always home by 6, even when I had to cut jobs short. Looking back, maybe that was the problem. It started with a trip. A girl's getaway to Cabo with her college friends. Nothing unusual, she'd done something like that once before. I even encouraged it. I thought every mom deserved a break, especially one who worked and parented full-time. The only strange part was how cold she was in the week leading up to it. No excited chatter. No lists. She didn't even ask me to help pack, which she usually did just so she could yell at me for folding wrong. She left on a Thursday morning. Blew me a kiss at the door. "Don't forget Eli's dentist appointment next Tuesday," she said, like she always did when leaving me in charge. I stood in the doorway like a proud idiot, watching her Uber drive off, convinced I was the good guy in a good marriage. Cabo came and went. She sent a couple photos, beach sunsets, cocktails, one group selfie with her friends. No solo shots. No text saying, "I miss you." But I chalked it up to her disconnecting, unwinding. That's what vacations are for, right? Then she came home. I met her at the airport. Eli ran up to her, wrapped around her legs, and she barely bent down to hug him. I tried to kiss her, and she turned her head. Said she was tired. I figured she was jet-lagged. Gave her space. That night, we ordered takeout, and she picked at it. Barely said a word. The next morning, she dropped the bomb like she was ordering coffee. "I cheated on you." Just like that. No build-up. No remorse. No tears. She was sitting at the kitchen table in her robe, sipping tea, like she was discussing the weather. "What?" I choked out, sure I misheard her. "I cheated," she repeated, slower this time, looking me dead in the eye. "In Cabo. With someone I met at the resort. He's better than you. Better than me." Like I was a model she'd returned to the store for a newer version. "You spent too little time being intimate with me," she continued. "I needed more than you gave. Emotionally. Physically. I felt like I'd just been hit by a semi and the driver got out to tell me it was my fault for walking too slow. I worked. I took care of our son. I tried to give us a life," I said, barely above a whisper. She shrugged. "That's not enough for me anymore." That's when I realized this wasn't a confession. It was a declaration of war. The days that followed felt like moving through molasses. She didn't leave. Didn't cry. Didn't apologize. Just floated through the house like a ghost. She smiled more at her phone than at me or Eli. That was the first real red flag. The late nights came next. She said she was working on a new campaign. The campaign must have required perfume, heels, and long showers afterward. I started noticing things. Small inconsistencies. The towel rack in the guest bathroom slightly damp when she never used that room. A second toothbrush in her gym bag. Unfamiliar cologne lingering in the hallway when I got home early from a job. I told myself I was being paranoid. That I was reading too much into things. That maybe she had a breakdown and this was her way of acting out. I even Googled midlife crisis symptoms like a damn fool. But deep down, a part of me, a part I'd buried under years of trust, started screaming. And then, one night, she came home late. Past midnight. Eli had asked for her 3 times before bed. I'd texted her twice. No reply. When she walked in, I was on the couch waiting. "Where were you?" I asked. Her eyes flashed. "You're not my father, Michael." "No," I said quietly. "I'm your husband. Or am I not that anymore either?" She sighed, like I was the child who didn't get the joke. "You're making this harder than it has to be." And that was it. No explanation. No effort to soothe the wound. Just that calm, cruel distance of someone who'd already emotionally moved out. That night, I didn't sleep. But I did start paying attention. Real attention. Not the kind where you hope to be wrong. The kind where you prepare to be right. Part 2. After her confession, something inside me fractured, not broken, just reconfigured. I wasn't the same man. My silence wasn't submission. It was focus. Jessica went about her days like she hadn't nuked our marriage with a single breakfast conversation. She still brewed coffee in the morning, kissed Eli's forehead before school, and wore her usual cardigan and lipstick like everything was normal. But there was a hollowness to it all, a performance. I stopped watching the show. I started watching her. First step? Her phone. I didn't snoop. Not at first. But I noticed how she always kept it face down now. The brightness turned down, the vibration off. She took it with her to the bathroom, to the shower, to the mailbox. It was glued to her like a secret trying to stay alive. One night, as she showered, I picked it up. It was locked. New passcode. She'd changed it. That was all I needed to know. I didn't confront her. Not yet. You don't fire the gun when you hear the noise in the dark. You wait, aim, and squeeze. So I began digging, quiet and precise. I started with the little things, social media timestamps, her location tags. I remembered her saying she was with her friend Natalie at a wine tasting one night. But Natalie posted pictures that same evening from a concert downtown. Jessica wasn't in any of them. No tag. No mention. Just a laughing group of girls I barely recognized. The next day, I asked Jessica how the tasting went. She blinked. Oh, it was fine. Natalie got a little tipsy. I smiled. She posted from a concert. Her eyes narrowed a fraction of a second too long. Oh, yeah. That was after. We stopped by for a bit. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But I wasn't pretending to notice how her smile tightened. That night I started a digital paper trail. I installed a monitoring app on her laptop, one she never used much, but occasionally synced her phone to. I catch something eventually. I also checked our shared credit card statements. Nothing wild, but something off. A pair of charges from a boutique hotel. Not in Cabo. Not anywhere exotic. Local. 2 separate nights, 2 weeks apart. I Googled the place. A romantic hideaway for discreet couples. The reviews made my stomach turn. Hey, Jess, I said casually that weekend, you remember those nights I worked late last month? Funny enough, I found a receipt in our email for the Lavender Inn. You ever been there? She didn't flinch. Oh, yeah, that's where Natalie had her sister's bachelorette. Remember I told you? You said it was at her house. A pause. Oh, right. I meant the after party. We got rooms. It was late. Safer than driving back. I wanted to yell, to throw something, but instead I smiled. Sounds fun. She walked away, probably proud of her lie. Or maybe scared I didn't argue. In the days that followed, I watched patterns. She got more careful. Passwords changed. Her phone locked instantly. She started turning off notifications. But she slipped once. She left her smartwatch on the charger. A preview popped up. Just a name. Braden. No last name. No heart emoji. But no one I knew. I clicked to scroll. Nothing. It needed her fingerprint to open. But that name stuck in my head like a splinter. Braden. I ran it through my memory. No family member. No coworker she mentioned. Definitely not a girlfriend. A couple of days later, I made an excuse to swing by her office. Said I was picking her up for lunch. She was surprised but didn't argue. I took the opportunity to shake hands with her coworkers. Smiled. Charmed. Took mental notes. No Braden. Back home, I opened our Wi-Fi router settings. It logs device names. One stood out. B_mobile_22. A device connected to our network late at night, around midnight, twice last week. Once when I'd been out with Eli at a sleepover. Once when I was called in to help with an emergency furnace leak. I stared at the IP logs, my hands shaking. She was bringing him here. Into my house. Our home. The one I built with my own 2 hands. The one where my son keeps his stuffed animals on a shelf I mounted, where our wedding photos still sat on the mantle. The next time she worked late, I dropped Eli off at my brother's and parked down the street. The house stayed dark, but an Uber dropped her off. And 5 minutes later, another Uber pulled up. Tall guy. Athletic build. Backpack slung low. Baseball cap. He walked right in. I sat there for 20 minutes, numb, then drove off. I didn't want to see more. Not yet. I told myself maybe this was just physical for her. Maybe it would burn out. But I kept digging. One night, we were watching a movie, something dumb, something romantic. She got up to grab wine. Left her phone. I waited. She never left it. It buzzed. A message preview. From Braden. Don't forget the appointment next Friday. I'll be there with you. I froze. Appointment? For what? I didn't move. Just took a picture of the screen with my phone and set hers back before she returned. All night, I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling. Friday. Appointment. Together. That wasn't an affair anymore. That was a plan. She wasn't just cheating. She was building something. And I wasn't supposed to be in the picture. Part 3. The morning it all collapsed was almost boring. Rain tapping the windows, the scent of stale coffee lingering from the pot I brewed too early. Jessica was upstairs doing her makeup. Eli was still asleep. I stood at the kitchen counter, phone in hand, staring at the name on the screen. Braden. After the message about the appointment, I hired someone. I didn't want to. I'm not the spy on your wife type. At least, I wasn't. But silence makes a man dangerous. The silence between us had been growing, stretching like a rubber band about to snap. I wasn't going to wait for it to break on me. I contacted an old buddy from high school, used to be military, now private investigations. No license plate graphics, no trench coat. Just a guy who knows how to disappear in plain sight. His name's Drew. I gave him the basics. I suspected my wife was having an affair. I needed confirmation, and I needed it done quietly. He didn't ask why I wasn't already divorced. He didn't need to. Within 4 days, he had the photos. I didn't want to look. I had the email open for nearly an hour before I clicked the attachment. But when I did, there was no turning back. The first photo, Jessica and Braden, standing in the lobby of a women's clinic downtown. She was in leggings and a hoodie, no makeup. He had one hand on her lower back. They were smiling. The second photo, them exiting an hour later, her carrying a small envelope, the kind clinics hand out with ultrasounds. And then, the third photo, the one that did it. Braden's hand on her stomach, just above the waistband of her jeans, while they sat on a bench outside. She was looking down, eyes glossy, both of them laughing like they were in some kind of Hallmark montage. It wasn't just an affair. It was a new beginning. For them. The final nail came in a blurry snapshot taken the next night, her bedroom window. The camera caught the faint blue glow of her laptop, but the figures were unmistakable. 2 bodies tangled together, sheets half off. His hand was in her hair. Her mouth was open mid-laugh. And our wedding photo was still on the nightstand. I didn't cry. Not then. Not even when I closed the email, locked my phone, and walked upstairs like a ghost. She was in the bathroom humming. Same song she used to sing to Eli when he was little. I stood outside the door, listening. Not eavesdropping, just absorbing. Soaking in the last fragments of the woman I thought I married. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't catch. I was past that. When she stepped out and saw me, she jumped slightly. Jesus, Michael, don't sneak up like that. I said nothing. Just looked at her. What? She asked, brushing past me. Nothing. I couldn't speak. My throat felt cemented shut. I left the house that afternoon and went to the lake. There's a pier near my dad's old fishing spot where no one goes this time of year. It was gray, fog rolling in off the water. I sat there for hours, letting the cold seep into my bones. I needed to feel something, anything other than the hollow void clawing its way through my chest. You work for years. You build something. You sacrifice. And one morning you find out it was all a stage play, and you were just the prop. She was pregnant. That was the appointment. It wasn't some casual meetup. It was the beginning of a family that didn't include me. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that if she hadn't been caught, she would have tried to pass that baby off as mine. Waited until it could be explained. Said it was an accident, that maybe my vasectomy didn't take. Let me play the role of father to a child that came from betrayal. And I would have done it. For Eli. For her. That's the kind of man I was. No more. When I got home, she was already asleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom and watched her for a long time. She curled up on her side, face soft in the low light, like the woman I used to know. Not the one who took someone else into our bed. Not the one who looked me in the eye and said he was better than me. I wanted to wake her. Confront her. Shout. Demand truth. But what was the point? Everything had already shattered. She just didn't know it yet. The next day, I started moving pieces behind the scenes. Bank accounts. Safe deposit box. Copies of the house deed. I contacted a lawyer quietly, methodically. I gathered every photo, every text, every email. Made backups. Sent them to a private folder only I could access. And then I played my part. I kissed her cheek in the mornings. Helped Eli with his schoolwork. Cooked dinner. Laughed at the shows she liked, even though every laugh felt like acid. But every minute, every hour, I was working. Not out of revenge. Not yet. Just preparation. Survival. I didn't tell a soul. Not even my brother. Not Drew. Not my lawyer. I wore the mask. The dutiful husband. The predictable one. The background noise in her new love story. Because I knew something she didn't. Her story wasn't the only one being written. And mine had just turned the page. Part 4. Revenge tastes better served in front of the people who once toasted your marriage with teary eyes and champagne. I waited. Patiently. Jessica thought I was still playing the part of the good man. Still trying to rebuild the marriage. She thought I was too stunned, too humiliated to react. That I was the kind of guy who'd let himself be used and discarded quietly. But I wasn't that man anymore. Behind her back, I collected everything. Photos, text logs, audio from her call with Braden, real name Sean Campbell, a failed con artist with a mile-long history of scams, including a similar scheme he'd pulled in another state. They wanted to play me, use my income, trap me with the pregnancy, and walk away with lifetime alimony. Except my vasectomy still worked just fine. The child? Not mine. I kept quiet long enough to make sure every legal detail was airtight. Then, I planned the moment Jessica would never forget. Her parents hosted a family dinner every fall, formal, elegant, their pride and joy daughter always at the center of attention. This year was special. Her mother called it a celebration of life and new beginnings, a not-so-subtle nod to the pregnancy. She told me, "We'd love for you to say a few words, Michael. After all, you're the father." I smiled. Of course. The night arrived like a scene from a Hallmark movie. Big wooden table, cloth napkins, crystal glasses filled with Merlot. Her dad gave a speech about family. Her mom dabbed tears from the corners of her eyes. Jessica, glowing in that smug, maternal way, rested a hand on her belly and kissed my cheek in front of everyone like we were still something real. Then came the toasts. Her brother raised a glass. Her sister did the same. Finally, they all turned to me. "Michael, say a few words," her father beamed. A toast from the man of the house. I stood up, glass in hand, heart calm. "I'd like to make a toast," I began. "To truth, to clarity, and to new beginnings." Everyone smiled. Jessica grinned. I turned slightly, raising my glass toward her. "To Jessica," I said, "the mother of a child that isn't mine." The silence was instant. It wasn't gasps, not yet. It was stunned, pin-drop silence, the kind that wraps the room in ice. What are you talking about?" Jessica stammered, trying to laugh it off. "I had a vasectomy 3 years ago," I said, voice even. "And I just got the paternity results last week. So unless this child was conceived by divine intervention, I'm not the father." Her father dropped his fork. Her mother blinked like she'd been slapped. Her sister made a sound, half cough, half strangled gasp. I pulled a folded paper from my jacket and set it on the table. "Test results. Certified. You're welcome to pass them around." Jessica's face drained of all color. "Michael, we should talk about this." "Oh, I'm sure we will," I said. "The court date is in 2 weeks. Your boyfriend won't be joining, though." "Sean Campbell? He's vanished. Probably because I sent all his past fraud filings to my attorney. You know, the ones you two used as a blueprint for your little alimony scheme." Her jaw twitched. Turns out conspiring to commit financial fraud and paternity fraud is frowned upon in court. "Michael, please," she said, eyes darting around the table. "Not here." "Oh no," I said, smiling. "Especially here." Her brother choked on his wine. Her dad stood halfway, not sure what to say. Her mother's tears returned, but they weren't happy ones this time. "I loved you," I said, voice low but cutting. "I built a life for you. For us. And you traded it all for a man with a fake name and a plan to drain me dry." "I was going to tell you," she whispered. "You did," I said, just not with words. I set my glass down gently. "Here's your real toast. To your baby, to your lies, and to your future, which won't include a single sin of mine." Then I walked out. Didn't look back. The silence behind me was louder than any argument we'd ever had. The divorce was swift. She fought. She begged. But it all fell apart. The judge saw the evidence. No spousal support. No claim to my assets. Full custody of Eli to me, since she'd exposed him to a convicted fraud and tried to use a pregnancy as leverage. Jessica tried to rebuild. Last I heard, she was living in a rented apartment with her mother. Braden Sean was long gone. Me? I sleep like a man who finally heard his own voice echo through a house full of lies and shattered every one of them. Part 5. 3 months after the court date, the house was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. Just hollow. Eli was staying with my brother for the weekend, and I didn't know what to do with the silence. I kept busy. Work. Gym. Legal cleanup. Therapy. Yeah, I swallowed that pill too. But still, some nights crawled by like ghosts dragging chains down the hallway. I thought cutting Jessica out would be the hard part. Turns out, that was the easiest. She burned herself out of our lives like drywood in a fire. No calls, no visits, no fight for custody. I think she knew she'd already lost too much. The apartment she ended up in was 2 towns over, and Braden, or Sean, or whatever name he was using this month, was gone the second lawyers got involved. But the hardest part wasn't missing her. It was untangling the truth from the memory. Because there were still moments, early mornings, Eli giggling over cereal, the quiet ache of sunset on the back porch, or the illusion of what we used to be crept in. Moments that made me wonder if any of it had ever been real. And if it wasn't, what did that make me? There were days I felt like a man who had been hollowed out and filled back up with broken glass. Then, one morning, she showed up. I was on the porch, drinking burnt coffee from a chipped mug, staring at nothing. Her car pulled up slowly, hesitating at the curb like the guilt itself was gripping the wheel. Jessica stepped out. Thinner, paler, pregnant belly now unmistakable. She was wearing the same coat she wore the winter we found out we were having Eli, back when I still believed in forever. She walked up the path like she didn't know if she'd make it to the door. I didn't stand. She stopped a few feet from me, eyes red, lips tight. Michael, she said. Please. I sipped my coffee. I don't want anything, she added quickly. Not money. Not sympathy. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Because you lost? I asked, voice flat. No, she said, her chin trembling. Because I ruined the only thing that was ever real. I didn't reply. She sat on the steps, silent for a long while. Then she said something that cracked me open in a way I wasn't ready for. It wasn't just about the sex, or the attention, or the lies. I was angry. At you. My head snapped toward her. You built this perfect world, Michael. And I hated you for it. She looked up, ashamed. You were always calm, always steady. You never yelled, never broke. I felt invisible. I didn't know how to be seen unless I set something on fire. I didn't know what to say to that. Maybe nothing needed saying. She stood, wiped her face, and turned to leave. Then she paused. Oh, and you might want to talk to Natalie. My stomach turned. What? Jessica didn't look back. Ask her how long she's known. Ask her why she never told you. Then she walked to her car and drove off like she hadn't just dropped another landmine on my life. Natalie, her best friend, Eli's godmother. The one who called me the only good man left after everything came out. The one who cried when Jessica was served papers. The one who brought Eli cookies and promised he'd be okay. I called her. Didn't beat around it. How long have you known? Silence. Then a long, shuddering breath. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. How long, Nat? A while. Did you help her? No, she snapped. But I didn't stop her either. I hung up. I didn't need more. Betrayal wears many faces. And some of them smile while they hand you a cookie. After that, I changed. Something inside me shut down, then rebooted on a different setting. I stopped looking for the old version of myself. That guy's gone. Dead and buried under a fake marriage and friendly fire. But I didn't become bitter. I became steel. Eli and I carved out a new rhythm. He doesn't ask about the baby. I don't bring it up. When he's older, I'll tell him the truth, not the sanitized version. The real one. Because if I learned anything from this mess, it's that lies are poison that seep into everything, even the love you thought was bulletproof. One night, I sat on that same porch with Eli asleep inside and the wind kicking up leaves across the lawn. I thought about endings. How people think they come with a bang or a speech or a slam door. But sometimes endings are just quiet. A stillness after the storm. And beginnings? They're even quieter. They come with no announcement, no sunrise over the horizon. Just a man sitting in silence, finally understanding that peace doesn't always come wrapped in happiness. Sometimes it comes wrapped in scars. And maybe that's enough. I'm not the same man anymore. I'm something harder. Something honest. And if the world thinks that makes me cold, good. Cold things don't burn when people try to set them on fire. The end.